this is on page 75, and we're going to again turn our notebook so we've got a little bit extra room. So we're going to combine everything with our energy pyramid, our food webs, photosynthesis, cellular respiration. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to call the left side, we're going to write decomposers, and then why don't we put maybe carbon dioxide and water. Maybe I'll make squares so it'll be easier to see. And then we'll call this over here the environment. We'll call it the environment. And then we're just going to finally make a triangle, but it doesn't need to be super large like our last one was. It just needs to be, I would say, maybe a third of the page, just like what we did before. So if we're talking about, and let's just start with, I don't know, let's just start with matter. So if we're talking about matter, I'm going to have matter is going to represent a straight line, and I'm going to have that be the key. So when we're talking about matter, we know that matter, it flows from our producer to our primary consumer to our secondary consumer, and then we've got our tertiary consumer. So if we're talking about matter, well, we know that matter has to do where it goes from one organism to another to another. So the primary consumer eats the producer. So this is going to be my matter. Again, nothing has changed before. So remember, when it eats it, yes, it eats it, but then also it releases carbon dioxide and water. Remember, that's our cellular respiration. So I'm just going to put CR because that'll help me remember that it's our cellular respiration. Well, the secondary consumer eats the primary consumer, but remember, when it turns that matter into energy, it releases carbon dioxide and water. That's our cellular respiration. Same thing with our tertiary consumer. Again, releases it as cellular respiration. And this was nothing new to what you did before. However, if we're talking about just the one above it, it's not just that the producer could get eaten by the primary consumer. Decomposer could eat it. Primary consumer could get eaten by the one up above it, or a decomposer could eat it. Same thing with a secondary consumer, could get eaten by a decomposer. Same thing with our tertiary consumer. And remember, when we're talking about these decomposers, they not only take in that energy, but then remember, they release that matter as cellular respiration. So it's not like it just kind of disappears. So when we're talking about, we've got this whole producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer. But remember, producers are plants. They take in that carbon dioxide and water. This was our photosynthesis. Now let's look at possibly our energy. So I'm going to have energy represented by this, and you could put it down below or you could put it up above. I'm going to put it up above just because I want to make it a little bit simpler. So I'm just going to say the sun, I'm going to say provides energy to producers. So that energy goes into our producer. Remember that energy goes to the producer, the primary consumer then takes it up. Oops, that needs to be dashed. But then it also could release it as heat, 90% as heat. So this is our 10%. Also, don't forget that the decomposer could end up eating it as well. So that's our dash. Same thing with our primary consumer. Oops. And then 90% gets released as heat back into the environment. This is our 10%. And remember, it could go up to our decomposer. And almost done. This would be our 10%, would be for them to be able to use, and then 90% gets released as heat. But remember, they could end up having a decomposer eat it, so it's not like it just ends up disappearing.